Right, let's see how we do simulation in the Marlowe Playground. So we're in the simulation tab. We have the escrow contract here. You can see the current state of the contract is displayed in the main window. And we're offered the opportunity to add an input to the transaction that we're building. And what we're offered here is that we're waiting for Alice to deposit 450 ADA. ADA in the playground allows us to have any kind of token type. It works multi-currency. The token with empty strings as names and currency is ADA. So we deposit 450 ADA into Alice's account 0. We do that by pressing on the plus button here. And if we do that, what we see is we see a change. Now, if we look in the transaction composer, we see that deposit has become part of the transaction that we're building up here. And the red button there allows us to remove it if we decide we want to change our minds. Now we've built up the transaction that we want to add to the chain. And these are the controls that allow us to deal with that. On the right is apply, so that will put the transaction on the chain. But we can also do some other things. We can advance the block time by clicking next block. We can reset the state of the whole contract right back to the beginning, or we can undo the last step. So with that, we can step forwards and backwards through different possibilities in the contract. But let's apply the contract. Let's apply the transaction and see what happens. What we see now, looking at the status pane at the bottom, is we can see that the current state says that Alice's account 0 has 450 ADA within it. And if we advance things on a bit, look in the transaction, we've made the choice of 0 for Alice and Bob for 1, so they disagree about what to do in resolving the dispute. If we apply that, we'll see that now in the current state, we can see that the choice of 0 by Alice and 1 by Bob has taken place. And now if we look back at the input composer, we can see that Carol has now been asked to make a choice whether to agree in favour of Alice or to agree in favour, arbitrate in favour of Bob. And that choice will determine the overall result of the contract. So you can see the pattern here is you select inputs from the input composer. They are, at any time, they offer the only inputs that will advance the contract. We could have one input per transaction. That would be perfectly possible, but this allows us to build up multiple inputs in a single transaction. So we put inputs into the transaction until we're ready to apply it. We apply it, but then at any point we can undo the last step. So that would undo a transaction, remove inputs from a transaction, and so on. So we can step backwards and forwards through the state of the contract. Okay, that's it for simulation. And what I'd encourage you to do is try this out for yourselves. This video just gives you a brief overview of how to operate the controls. Okay, what we'll look at next is how the analysis features work.